Hey guys, welcome back to Russian Libertas Corpus YouTube channel, and today Alexei Postnikov and Gala Bagatova, are gonna talk about rallies dedicated to the year of the war that took place last Friday and also Thursday and also Saturday all over the world and here in New York where we live. And we have a lot to talk about, I think.
Right. We have attended one of the rallies that happened, I believe, on Saturday, organized Friday. Okay, yeah, that was a Friday. That was organized by a feminist anti-war movement here in New York, and we have interviewed some participants of this rally, of this protest.
And the question is, what do you think will happen with Russia and Russians?
The more important division is not geographical, in my opinion. It is the ethical division and the division between those who actually want to divide themselves and separate themselves from the Russians who support Putin. And I think that there is this big dilemma right now, and this big contradiction that we are facing. And I think that after this war will end, I think we will witness how people will make their choices, and we saw it. Historically speaking, all the ways of Russian immigration. Some people chose to return, some people didn't. Of course, it will depend on whether they can return or not, but I'm hopeful. I hope that at some point we will do enough and we will find ourselves in a situation where we can return. And I think this is impossible without our direct participation. But I also can see that part of these people who immigrate is how they want to start actually a new life, and they want to separate themselves. They want to burn the bridges. They want to cut all their ties with Russia. And I think that we will see people who will be making these choices, and we will see a lot of these personal choices. We will see them in our close proximity to us. We will see them, our friends who left, who now live in Armenia, now who live in Turkey, in Kyrgyzstan. We will see them making this choice. And I personally hope that these people will return and the dialogue will be possible with those who always stayed. And I personally think that this will be my choice.
Well, full disclaimer, I did not grow up there, so I've only sort of reconnected with my Russian heritage. I was adopted, I was born there, adopted. So I've only reconnected recently, but I generally just defer to people who have grown up there, who have the experience of what it's like to live there and how they want to see it changed. Some things for me, myself, I am bisexual and non-binary, so I would like to see more inclusion for us as well. And just, disability rights and stuff, just generally more inclusion, more celebrating the specific differences of different cultures and different areas within that region, and celebrating the differences and in that way creating unity.
So you envisioned Russia to become a full-fledged democracy that includes people based on gender, race, sexual orientation, ability, disability, whatever. You see that happening in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. I think with time, yeah, definitely. I believe that, I believe in the goodness of people in general, and I believe that there are many, many good people there. I talk to my family who lives there very often, and they feel very strongly the same as I do against the war in Ukraine. So, I believe that they're there, and I think that it just needs a spark to ignite this sort of change. Yeah.
So you think that's exactly the spark that is happening, right?
I would like to hope. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful about the future.
I think that this state is so big, and I think that our problems consists in this size, and I think that we have different nationalities, and I think that the Russia state blame and blame these nationalities, and I think that the Russian state forces them to be included.
The best way, what I see, I wish for Russia, of course, it's a democratic. I want to see Russia as a democratic country and free of corruption government and freedom of speech and all these freedoms that every democratic country has. But I can't predict what will happen to Russia because the situation is really scary, and actually it's a catastrophe for Russia, all this war that Putin started. And I stand with Ukraine. I'm Russian. I stand with Ukraine, and I wish the war to be over soon.
Here are the answers. And I think what's important is there are some hope, but way more
Pessimism?
Pessimism, and just people just don't know what's going to happen, and that's understandable because we don't know what's going to happen. And based on that, I want to kind of throw this topic here as kind of my take on those rallies, and generally speaking on, I would say, Russian political immigrants of the new wave, and like previous waves too, and their position on this subject, because visually the first rally that I attended on Friday, it was across the street from United Nations, and visually, let's imagine you're just passing by, you see this, and what will you think? That someone's supporting Ukraine, that's understandable. It's really hard to say if
it's Ukrainian people, right, or Russian.
Yes,
they can be from anywhere.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You can easily assume that those are homogeneously Ukrainian people, but it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, and I understand why why some Russian immigrants now trying to distance themselves from Russia.
Understandably.
Some of them even denounced, maybe not formally, but publicly denounced their citizenship or any connection to Russia. On emotional level, I can understand that, but then we have this problem, and this is not going to be probably a very popular opinion on the subject, that the main formula for those rallies was victory of Ukraine is the whole world's victory.
Correct. Well, yeah. Ukraine, it represents the values that are progressive, that it is the value of freedom of identity expression and anything else.
Yeah.
But
there is a but, because in this formula, Russia is not mentioned at all. If we excluding Russia from this formula, ignoring this humongous, the biggest country in the world by territory, pretty big country by population, and just dismissing it and saying, well, Russia is just gonna end. Let's say Ukraine will win. Let's hypothetically say Ukraine will get the territories, will go to the borders on February 23rd, 2022, or hopefully maybe even get back Donbass, and if we're being very optimistic, Crimea as well. But then what's going to happen next? It's going to be Ukraine's victory. If they're going to regain their territory, the whole world will be like, okay, fine. Maybe even Putin will not be in place, because I don't think it will happen while he's alive and has power.
Right.
So Ukraine restored in the borders of 1991.
Okay.
Everybody's happy.
Right. So then what's next? So Russia.
What's next?
What's going to be happening in Russia? And that's
the big problem. So let's say something going on in Russia, whatever government takes over place, Russia will start to pay reparations. Maybe even sanctions going to be lifted, maybe not. But Russia, if it not going to get any help, it will be in pretty dire economic situation, because let's be honest, Putin is destroying Russian economy right now, day by day. It's like deteriorating into nothingness, basically. Then let's say 10 or 15 years after this whole thing will end, I'm going to do like a historic parallel a little bit. Some corporal from Russian army who was, on the front line, who is on the front line right now, going to be pretty displeased with pretty shitty situation in Russia, and maybe he will be like, maybe I can, gain some political points talking about this, addressing this issue that Russia lost this war because it was the war against the whole world, and we were backstabbed. So
you are scared of the revival of the same narrative that actually caused the war, instead of the actual defeat of Russia, like on the ideological level. This will not happen. Instead, what will happen is the revival of the ideology. It's called revisionism. So instead of the total defeat, Russia may or may not get consumed by the revisionist mental state, just like Germany did after the First World War. So this might, instead of the defeat, this defeatist sentiments may cause the revival of the aggression. It is indeed very important to define the terms of what is the victory and what is the defeat, and how the elites will define it for the public.
We as Russians, again, very unpopular opinion right now, but who else are gonna think about future of Russia and how it is important actually for the world as well, as important as Ukraine's victory?
If we think about Ukraine, if we care about Ukraine, it is important to address what Russia is going to look like, how this defeat is going to look like. So I would like to come back to the third, I believe it's the third, I'm sorry, I confused them, but the lady who was arguing that Russia is going to be dismantled or just cease to exist, like how is that going to look like? And is it a defeat, or is it actually the true defeat? Or it is a new life of, I don't know, Russia, United States, right? The new sovereignty for the federal region.
Federation.
The real federation.
Although Russia called Russian Federation right now, I mean, in fact, it's not a federation, because the territories do not have...
The power vertical is extremely tough, and it's basically a unitary.
Yes. And so that's transformation. Hopefully will happen. But again, we need to talk about this. I mean, we Russians need to talk about this now, because when the war ends, who knows what's going to happen. And ideally, we all should be ready for anything, to have an idea what to do with Russia, because frankly, probably not a lot of people will care about Russia, as public opinion shows. Right. And again, we're going back to this problem that if Russia will be left isolated, in any case, even without Putin, even with more or less democratic government, if it's not going to be supported.
Yes, isolationism and defeatist sentiments definitely would not, I would say, it would not facilitate democratization, like a real democratization of the country. And I agree with you that Russians, as nobody else, are responsible for having a project for building this new country, having this project solid, written on paper, although it's very clear there is a template for democracy to build. It's not so difficult to create this theory. It's already out there. The literature is saturated with the manuals of how to build democracy. But in order to follow this manual, you need people, you need an ideology, you need a project to show people, and to actually move forward for the good, And I agree with Alex that it's indeed important to have a project for Russia too, once it's defeated, and to define this defeat, or define the success of new free Russia on top of the defeated autocracy or totalitarian regime of Putin.
Yeah. And also, recently, a week ago, I think, Navalny, the guy who Putin's enemy number one, Putin's political opponent number one, from the jail cell sent his plan for after-war Russia, and we'll try to find it. I'm pretty sure it exists in English, so we're gonna put the link to this plan. please read it and maybe let's have a discussion about it later, because it does have some sort of a roadmap for Russian inclusion back into the world.
If Russia remains isolated, if Russia remains just defeated and ashamed, you will have a revival of the war. It will be just Hitler after Kaiser. And it's important to include Russia. This is why we're here. This is why we're trying to connect to you guys. This is why we're trying to make you understand that Russians can be your friends and can establish a connection with you on a new level, can establish relationship on a shared value system basis.
Yeah.
And it is important to understand that there's an alternative Russia that may exist on top of what is happening that can be a friend.
And in a way, I think we are sharing not very popular opinions here about, like, just mentioning Russia during this war, but I think that should be addressed.
I would not agree with you actually about not popular opinion. I meet a lot of people who actually see Russians as friends. I mean, those Russians who are opposed to Putin, of course, and they understand that there is a chance for new Russia to be a friend, that Russians are not all crazy, and that there is an avenue to establish a new connection. And that's why we're here, guys. We're here to connect with you. We're here to interact with you. Please, those who believe in a free Russia, in a friendly Russia, reach out to us. Drop us a comment there, ask your questions, disagree with us, offer us your own.
If you don't
if you
think
disagree
that
with
Russia,
us, support us,
yes.
show us some love, and don't forget to do what?
Okay, so you need to, please, if you're so inclined, like, share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for future notifications. And again, like, don't be shy. We're here to start a dialogue. So let's start it. We're Russians. We're against the war. And in the meantime, we're also pro-Russia,
free, friendly Russia to you guys. So please stay tuned. I'm looking forward to see you in the next video.
All right. Until then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.